If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel for more of my content. Also be sure to press the bell button down below, that way when a new video comes out, you'll be notified. Hello and welcome to Spider-Man Month. I love Spider-Man. He's truly one of the coolest superheroes out there and truly one of the best. Ever since swinging his way in his first appearance in Amazing Fantasy number 15, Spidey has become a media juggernaut, with him appearing in other stuff such as toys, cartoons, a crap ton of movies, and especially video games. Throughout the 2000s, there was an abundance of Spider-Man games, some good and some that are just plain awful. While everyone tends to point to Spider-Man 2 as the best one of that era, me personally, one of my favorites was Ultimate Spider-Man, a game that's been overlooked by many people, but I feel like I should talk about one of my favorite games of my childhood. Ultimate Spider-Man is a 2005 game for the PlayStation 2, Nintendo GameCube, original Xbox, and PC. It is based off the Ultimate Spider-Man comic written by Brian Michael Bendis and art by Mark Bagley. It was the first in the Ultimate Comics line from Marvel in the early 2000s. Here, Spider-Man was put in a more 21st century setting, with him being given a familiar yet different stories, giving inspiration to many Spider-Man stories outside of comics. The Ultimate Universe were different interpretations of some of Marvel's most famous characters, in which they were given new origins in a different universe, with some being good and others bad. It is here where parts of the Marvel Cinematic Universe were inspired, and it gave us the Miles Morales Spider-Man, which many of you know in recent years is starting to grow on its own, but that's a different story. But enough with the history lesson. Does this game still hold up? Well, get your web swingers and let's find out. So, what's the plot? Well, we get into the backstory about Peter Parker and his childhood friend Eddie Brock. Turns out their fathers used to work together as scientists trying to find a cure for cancer. This resulted in a black suit. However, they were not able to complete it due to the fact that they sold out to a man named Boulevard Trask and his company, and thus all funding to the suit stopped. It doesn't help that their parents ended up dying in a plane crash. So one day, Peter and Eddie rediscovered the suit, in which Peter then comes back as Spider-Man to take the suit for himself, and it enhances his abilities. However, the suit proved to be too much and he got rid of it. However, Eddie, upon learning what happened, takes the suit for himself, but he loses control and becomes the monstrous Venom. Then Peter and Eddie get into a fight, but are separated when the cops show up. Time passes and Peter Parker does his usual business as Spider-Man. All the while, Eddie Brock is having trouble controlling the Venom suit. He then gets into business with the aforementioned Boulevard Trask to help test the suit. All the while, villains appear, Nick Fury and Silver Sable get involved, and Peter and Eddie must confront the demons of their past. So what's the good? Well, for starters, the story. This is loosely based off the Venom saga in the Ultimate Spider-Man comics. Even if you haven't read those comics, it allows you to jump on. It's really easy to follow the story. It's pretty straightforward and simple, which is actually pretty good. Also, what I love about this game is that it acknowledges that Spidey is in the Marvel Universe, with characters such as Wolverine and the Human Torch making cameos. You get to see some of Spidey's more well-known rogues galleries such as the Rhino, Electro, an awesome version of the Beetle, and the Green Goblin, we each having their own boss battle. Also, I just gotta say this, but I was never a fan of the ultimate version of the Green Goblin. I know they were going for something more different from the main version, but I'm sorry, he just looks like a demonic Hulk who can shoot fireballs. The graphics in this game look great. This game came out in 2005, and unlike most games from that era, this managed to keep a timeless feel due to it using cel-shaded graphics, and is based off Mark Bagley's artwork, which I adore greatly. During the cutscenes of the game, you get this comic book style layout with panels and spelled out sound effects. In fact, I think this game deserves to be remastered in HD, which makes it look way better compared to that of Spider-Man 2. Yeah, Pete, you don't really look well there, you know that? Jeez, no need to run like—
Oh my god, what's wrong with your face?
Speaking of which, the gameplay is rather good, taking plenty of inspiration from Spider-Man 2, with the maps, structures, and especially the web swinging. Okay, I have a confession to make. I never played Spider-Man 2.
You what?
Sorry, I just never got a chance to play it. So while everyone was swinging around delivering pizzas to this song, I, on the other hand, was swinging around racing the Human Torch in this song. The combat is also pretty good, with Spider-Man doing the usual jumping around, kicking and punching. In order to defeat your enemies, you gotta web them up while they're down. Throughout the game, there are moments where you have to chase the villains in order to stop them from causing more damage to the city. Though I will admit the web swinging does take some time of getting used to. You also get to play as Venom, which is a totally different beast altogether. Venom relies more on brute strength, so you're a lot stronger but not as agile as Spider-Man. Not to mention, Venom's moves are more brutal, such as throwing cars, breaking people's backs, and feeding on people in order to keep your health going. I've seen this kid get eaten on so many occasions. There's a lot to do around the city. You have to complete races in order to have a race for the Human Torch, in which each race proves to be more difficult. You get to go on combat tours where you pretty much beat up on the gangs of New York who have their own unique flares to them. You get to collect tokens that are able to open up special features such as landmarks, concept arts, and comic book covers. Even after the game, you also get to complete certain tasks that will help you unlock character bios and new suits. Granted, it's nothing new for Spider-Man games because it's been done as far back as the PS1 Spider-Man game to the PS4 version, but it's still a nice time-honored tradition that's been done here. Along with Manhattan, you also get to explore Queens as well, and I feel like this really helps make New York a lot bigger in the game. This is the only time you get to explore Queens in any Spider-Man game. I'm guessing it would have been too much for future Spidey games as they went for a more realistic style, so they had to keep the environment mainly in Manhattan. While the comic book graphics here help allow things to be expanded more, but it just brings a more grounded part of Spider-Man as he is from Queens. Now this game does have negatives, but nothing that hinders it. While I did praise the combat system, the locking on or aiming system can be all over the place per se, so sometimes when you're hitting enemies or webbing them up, it can be at random. As mentioned before, the web swinging takes some time to getting used to, and if you're coming from games such as Web of Shadows and the PS4 Spider-Man, then this one might come up as underwhelming. And while I've also praised the graphics, it mostly comes from the character designs, as sometimes the backgrounds can be a little bit meh, especially from a distance. Also, I feel like there wasn't enough character development. They're no bad characters, it's just they're not expanded upon, which makes them kinda less interesting. For example, we're only told about Peter and Eddie's relationship and didn't really show much of it. I don't know, it was hard for me to believe that these two were actually friends at one point. But I feel like the developers were limited with how much they had to work with and the fact they are basing it off a particular story in the comics, so they did the best they could here. Aside from that, Ultimate Spider-Man the game is a must play for any Spidey video game fan. If you still have your old 6th generation consoles or an Xbox 360 or One, as the Xbox version is compatible with them, then buy yourself a rather cheap and usable copy of the game, and have a good time.
Hey you! Is that a rhinoceros horn or you just have to be to see? I'm so scared I can't even finish my lame joke.